Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Michael Ayala. A teenage human trafficking victim has been ordered to pay her attacker's family $150,000 in restitution. 17-year-old Pieper Lewis pleaded guilty last year to involuntary manslaughter and willful injury in the June 2020 killing of Zachary Brooks. Now, Lewis was 15 when she stabbed Brooks more than 30 times. Lewis maintained that she was trafficked against her will. She claimed she stabbed him in a fit of rage after being raped again and again. Now, both police and prosecutors didn't dispute that Lewis was sexually assaulted and, in fact, trafficked. On Tuesday, she was sentenced to 5 years probation in addition to a restitution order of $150,000. As for being required to pay restitution, Polk County District Judge David Porter said this court is presented with no other option. Restitution is mandatory under Iowa law. In a prepared statement read before sentencing, Lewis said, in part, "My spirit has been burned but still glows through the flames. Hear me roar, see me glow, and watch me grow. I am a survivor." Now, this case is similar to one that we saw in Wisconsin that we've been following closely here on Court TV. Crystal Kaiser was charged in 2018 for killing a man being investigated for sex trafficking. Court TV anchor Julie Grant gives us some background on that case.
Supporters in Kenosha, Wisconsin are calling on authorities to free Crystal Kaiser, an accused killer. They say Kaiser is a victim of human trafficking. They want the district attorney to drop murder charges against her. Kaiser says she was defending herself when she shot and killed 34-year-old Randall Voller and set his house on fire in June of 2018. Kaiser was just 17 years old at the time. Randy Voller was charged with child sex abuse and was out on bail at the time of his death. Kaiser's mother says the prosecutor knew about Voller's alleged activities, but did nothing to stop him.
He had evidence. The fact that it took for her to do something because she got tired of it. And he trying to sweep the whole problem under the rug, but it's so much more bigger than just her.
But District Attorney Michael Gravely says Kaiser killed Voller because she wanted to steal his car and then bragged about the killing on social media.
Where she is essentially bragging on a Facebook Live sort of telecast. She has a gun in her hand, she's waving that gun in her hand, and she is discussing how if somebody makes her mad, she'll shoot them like she shot someone previously, and there are people there trying to quiet her down.
Kaiser's case has gained national attention, with celebrities like Alyssa Milano and Patricia Arquette calling for her release. Kaiser's case is reminiscent of the Centoya Brown case in Tennessee, which also garnered a lot of attention. Brown was a victim of child sex trafficking. She was tried, convicted, and sentenced to life in prison for murdering a man in 2004. He allegedly bought her for sex when she was 16 years old.
I've been able to help people, which is amazing. Young people, young kids, they listen. And I know it's purely an act of mercy that you've even given me a hearing.
Brown was granted clemency by then Tennessee Governor Bill Haslam after serving 15 years. She was released in August of 2019. Kaiser faces life in prison if she's convicted of murder and arson.
My only thing is I want my child home, and it's messed up how everything happened.
Now, earlier this year, the Wisconsin Supreme Court ruled in favor of Kaiser using a state law that says sex trafficking victims are immune from prosecution from crimes that they may commit as a direct result of being trafficked. Now, normally that relates to prostitution, but it was expanded in this case. So we'll see how that ends up. We'll continue to follow that one, too. All right, still with me, criminal defense attorneys Jack Rice, Josh Schiffer. All right, Josh, let's start off. You know, this is an interesting case because this is a young woman. In Iowa, there's something called the safe harbor laws, and that's what they were dealing with in Wisconsin, where it says if you're being trafficked, you can't be charged with prostitution. What they were arguing there is that it should be expanded because these young women are in a situation they feel trapped, and if at some point they see an opportunity to act out and they do, they shouldn't be charged with a crime. That's exactly what happened here. So where do we want to start? Do we want to start on the mandatory money that she's being forced to pay, or the fact that she's not protected by law in Iowa?
Very, very quickly, I'm going to hit a couple high points. First of all, this is why mandatory minimum sentences are terrible. They steal the discretion of judges who are the ones that best know how justice works in their community. Certainly, they need guidelines. and there might need to be some rules, but mandatory minimums rob judges of the ability to do justice, period.
In individual cases like this.
Exactly. The safe harbor needs to be recognized by more and more states. Thankfully, it is spreading because these young women and other people, it's not just women, it's called duress. And duress is a legal concept where if you are experiencing third-party or outside influences that force you to make a certain decision, you should not necessarily be held responsible for that decision. If I put a gun to your head and tell you to do something, you're going to do it whether it's legal or not. And you shouldn't be prosecuted for anything you do that's illegal when someone's got a gun to your head. That's the same as a sex trafficking victim experiences 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, especially when they're underage. And here's my real problem with this case. We elect prosecutors to follow the heart, soul, and the law in our communities. The hardest decision a prosecutor ever makes is deciding not to prosecute because they've got to go back to voters and tell them why someone that did something arguably terrible isn't being punished. This is, in my opinion, a district attorney welching on that obligation to dismiss cases.
All right, fair enough. Let me talk about the facts of this case, Jack, then I'll get you to ring in. What the prosecutors were alleging was this young girl, she was being trafficked by someone else. She was sold to this guy. This guy was doing whatever he was doing, and she felt trapped. Prosecutors, the reason they brought this case is because they say the guy was sleeping. According to the way the stabbing happened, he was lying down and apparently sleeping. She stabbed him 30 times. The law there's no safe harbor law, so they couldn't use that, was that there's an affirmative defense that if you committed under the compulsion of another's threat of serious injury, it's fine as long as the threat is imminent. Obviously, if he was sleeping, and that's the way they believe, he's not imminent. So that's why. And then a plea was taken in this case. That's the other crime that was committed here.
It's both of those things. First of all, I see it like this. We know that the police, that the DA in that case, they acknowledged that she was sex trafficked. We acknowledge that she had been raped.
They do.
So we all have that agreement. Now, if we talk about the concept of imminence, what I would say is imminence is the same as inevitability in this case, because we know what happened to her in the past will happen to her in the future. It is coming. You can guarantee it, just like the sun coming up. And because that's the truth, she has the right to defend herself. If she's supposed to wait, this is the argument. She would have to wait until he actually decides to rape her. Not that he might be getting rapey too.
That she can win that fight.
I think it would have to be he's raping her, and then only then could she defend herself. This was disgusting. It never should have been charged out. This prosecutor has the ability to look at the facts of a case, use their own authority and say, under these circumstances, I do not believe in the interest of justice that their crime was committed and I am not going to bring charges. They have that authority. They should have used it in this case. They failed this young woman. They failed the system. They failed the people of Iowa.
Josh, it gets even worse. You know that little thing that I read there that she was talking about how she's glowing now and she's growing. They admonished her in their argument to the judge for her to get jail time, saying that she wasn't taking responsibility for the act, not only for the act, but the effect that stabbing this guy and killing this guy had on his family. Apparently he had 2 kids, all right? So they're representing the victim. You gotta understand that. So you gotta respect that aspect of it. But here's a guy, I mean, we know what he was doing. There's no dispute about what he's doing, and this is the approach you're gonna take?
One of the frustrations, I think, of a lot of criminal defense lawyers is prosecutors who just have a policy and it's a line in the sand to object to everything. I want a bond and it's totally real. Nope, I'm gonna object. I want to, nope, I've got to object. And it's the safety for them because they're just following orders. And I'd be willing to bet they were under orders to contest anything that was presented in the court to the judge. And I don't blame them, but that it's a symptom of what's wrong with our system. How are you going to take genuine justice for an individual and denigrate it and object to it when a 15-year-old's entire life is in front of her and you're affecting it, and you take that opportunity to pull down on her? That's hard to stomach. I don't care who you are.
All right. We do have to take a break, but a little bit of an epilogue. Young girl was having some problems in juvenile detention, not following rules. One can understand you may have a little problem with authority in the situation she's in. Judge told her, he said, I'm sending you out on close supervision. And young lady, when you go out into the world, there's gonna be a lot of rules that you're not gonna like. You're gonna have to follow them. Otherwise, you're gonna end up back in jail and you're gonna do 20, because both those charges hold 10 years. So, gosh, I wish the best for this young lady, but it's gonna be tough.